I'm going to give it a minute or two to allow all our entrants to join. You are now joining our history, life orientation, and geography subject guidance session this afternoon. Hopefully, we'll give you some advice on which subjects to choose, especially if these are subjects that you are interested in. I can see our numbers still slowly climbing, so we'll give it another moment or so. Just before we begin, please make sure that you can hear me. If you're struggling, please just make sure that your audio and your speaker volume is turned up, that you are making use of your device audio. You are currently muted. We do this just to try and minimize the background noise as much as possible. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to raise your hand at the end of the webinar, and I'll gladly unmute you from my side, but please also make sure that you click on the little microphone to unmute yourself. You don't have to wait up until the end to ask your question. This afternoon, I'm supported by my co-host, Zintle from our Learning Delivery Department, as well as Ruan. They will be co-presenting, and then at the back answering questions this afternoon is Dirk Salome, Kyra, as well as Monique. So their fingers will be typing away, answering your questions as we go along. My name is Suzanne. I head up client engagement here at Impact. And before we start, it would be great if you can quickly just enter that poll of ours. We just want to get a bit of an idea how long you've been with Impact. We know that those of you who've been with us for a while might know some of the stuff that we'll be covering this afternoon. For some of you, it will be brand new. Great. So let's get into this. So before you can start choosing your elective subjects, there's a couple of compulsory subjects that you need to be aware of. So at the end of grade 9, a learner must make choices in terms of their subjects when they decide to enter the FET or the further education and training phase. They are entering the National Senior Certificate phase, which means that they would need to take 4 compulsory subjects as well as 3 elective subjects. So the compulsory subjects, first of all, is life orientation. I won't go into any details around life orientation this afternoon. Ruan will take us through that. Will or Zintle, I might be mistaken there, but you'll be spending some time on this subject this afternoon. Life orientation is one of those subjects where we often get asked, can I exchange it for another subject? Unfortunately not. It is a compulsory subject. Then there's mathematics or mathematical literacy. A learner can't take both. They need to choose one of the two. They can also not elect to not have maths at all. They must have a form of mathematics, which is then Mathslit or mathematics, and then a home language, as well as a first additional language. And these two must be 2 different languages. So at Impact, learners can choose between Afrikaans and English as their home language. And then from next year, they can choose between Afrikaans, English, and isiZulu as their first additional language. A learner can opt for 2 home languages, such as, for example, Afrikaans and English on a home language level, but they must have 2 different languages. It cannot be Afrikaans as their home language as well as Afrikaans as their first additional language. So that's quite important to keep in mind, that there has to be at least 1 home language, and a learner needs 2 languages to comply with the compulsory subject requirements in the FET phase. We do offer a wide variety of elective subjects. Some of these subjects, such as agricultural sciences or agricultural management practices, EGT, consumer studies, hospitality studies, are really awesome subject choices that you won't necessarily find at all schools. But as an impact learner, these are some of the subjects that you can choose, and you can choose 3 of these subjects. This afternoon, we'll be spending some time on history, the compulsory subject life orientation, as well as the elective subject geography. Subject choices are vitally important. Yes, I know. If you're a mom sitting here today, it's daunting to think, what am I going to advise my child on? What will my child be studying one day? Where will they go? What will they do after matric? So one way that they can find out is through our career compass. This is a 95 Rand document that or online document that they complete. It does not take away from a formal educational specialist or educational psychologist that takes your child through a complete psychometric testing. But it does give you a starting point of at least what is my child interested in? Because this is the big thing. They might not know what they will be doing in another 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years' time. But we all have certain interests, or as many kids at this age know exactly what I don't want to do, perhaps. But it is super important that they choose the subjects that they are interested in, as this will form a good basis for what they will be doing one day. But they need to be informed. It is so important to do research. Will my child be studying tertiary at a tertiary level? Are they interested in studying? Will they go into business? Would they like to go into medicine? What is it that they are really, really interested in doing? And then start your research on where will they be studying it or further their training after matric. Will they perhaps go to university or a technical college or to some form of vocational studies that they want to complete? But they need to have an idea of what those requirements will be if they decide to go and study further. And this is where a lot of research comes in. The universities also have different kind of requirements for the courses. So it might not be that a particular university offers a particular course and has exactly the same requirements as another university. We even get the question around international studies. Again, if your child is interested in international studies, have a look at what their requirements are. Normally, it is around what are the subjects that the child is taking, along with what would be in South Africa, specifically the universities look at their AP score and how that is calculated. But many universities actually gives an online calculation or calculator that they can use to enter their current marks and get an idea of where I can reach the necessary marks for that particular qualification or course that I am interested in. So please do some homework with your child. I know in life orientation, there's these portfolios from grade 8 already where they can look at different careers, and this is where they can use the careers that they're interested in to find a career path that they are interested in, do some job shadowing, but research is super, super, super important for learners to be able to get an idea of what it is that they one day would like to study. So how do I choose which subjects? We've bundled the subjects together a little bit for the purpose of these presentations into the various groupings. So it doesn't mean when we talk about business and management studies that the learner must take as their 3 elective subjects, accounting, business, and economics. It just means those are the typical business and management studies subjects. Same for the services. In fact, you can't take something like consumer studies and hospitality studies together. The learner must choose between those two subjects if they're interested in that. But like I've said, this afternoon, we're spending time on geography, history, and life orientation. And I'm very happy to hand over to my colleague Zinsley, who will be taking you through history this afternoon. Thank you, Zinsley.
Thank you so much, Susan. Hello, everyone. My name is Zintle Mashele, and I am the History and Life Orientation Education Specialist here at Impark. Today, I'll be walking you down history as a subject choice and life orientation as one of your compulsory subjects. A very basic definition of life orientation is that it's a study of the past, right? We look at the different people, the actions, the interactions, the decisions, the traits, the behaviors that shaped our history and that made our history what it is. So essentially, we aim to enlighten you and give you better insights about our present realities, using history as a compass to understand our lives as it is now. I think this definition is better put by Jean Kirkpatrick, saying that history is a better guide than good intentions. The question is, why study history? My first reason is that history helps you to form an identity. And this is because we look at history and we look at different historical actors, not necessarily in the form of, your race or your gender, but we just look at people we resonate with and behaviors we resonate with. We look at history to learn what is and what is not, and it helps you shape your identity. You start identifying yourself with different actions that happen in the past and what you can do to change our future. You also can study history because it facilitates more moral understanding and growth. And this is because when you look through history, you look at, good behaviors, bad behaviors. And I think you get a chance to just sift and serve as in what works and what doesn't, and get to decide what kind of character you want to emulate and the kind of person you want to be for, our beautiful country and the rest of the world. It also helps with equipping learners with information that is crucial to understanding our daily lives. As I mentioned before, that history is a very, very good compass. It helps you understand where exactly our lives are and what brought us here. History also helps you develop essential skills that you can use in any field. And this is mostly achieved through the assessments that we give, the tasks, the tests, and the exams. You get to learn skills and refine your skills and your talents. Okay, I do just want to give some disclaimers about the curriculum that we have for history. The first one being that it focuses on political history. So it does not, focus on different kinds of history, like maybe the history of art, of music, of clothes, whatever it may be. But as I mentioned, because you get to develop these essential skills and you get to transfer what you learned at school or throughout the curriculum, and you get to apply it to other different avenues of, study. And also there's an emerging focus on decolonizing history. And this is because we want every African learner to be able to, locate themselves in the global context, to be able to see how global events affected not only Africa, not only South Africa, but, the world, and how Africans and South Africans played a part in different, events that took place in different circumstances that we find ourselves in. Okay, so some of our learning areas in history, and these span from grade 10 to grade 12. We look at topics like early settlements and societies, and we look at, Africa, China, Europe, during the times of the 1300s to the 1600s, and look at how those societies were before everything that we see now. We also focus on, Mfecane and the different debates surrounding that. We look at the Russian Revolution together with the Cold War, which is a very, very crucial topic in, our present time, because it shaped a lot, of what we see now. We look at topics like communism, capitalism, and socialism, which, form part of the conversations that we are having today. We also look at topics like Nazi Germany, nationalism, apartheid, we look at Black power and civil rights movement. And as I said before that, we do try to make sure that some of the international topics, we locate Africa and South Africa to it. And you will find that, Black power and civil rights movement had a direct impact to some of the movements that we had here in South Africa. I do want to note that we do have some of, silent themes in our curriculum, like the role of women, which I think is very important, to learn about, especially for every girl child, just to see how they also played a part. Now, I'm going to move on now to the historical thinking skills that you can expect when you study history. And the first one being that, we look at historical significance. And here we ask the question, how do we decide what we should study? And we look at, events that resulted in change. We look at significant events that, shaped our times now. We look at things like evidence. And here we essentially decide, or we look at how we know about, the past. We look at, how the history narrative that we have now has been, or the sources of that history narrative. We also look at factors like continuity and change. And here we try to understand the complex flows of history. We look at cause and consequences. And here we look at, the different events and what caused by it, what they were caused by, and the ultimate results of it. We then look at historical perspectives. And here we try to avoid, presentism, like using values that we hold dear now, knowledge that we hold dear now. We just try to look at history from the perspective of historical actors. We then also look at the ethical dimension. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to the academic skills. And these are skills that you can expect to, be tested on, and skills that, we can refine you on, as in with working with evidence. And here you are expected to actively construct knowledge, because you look at, different sources of evidence, primary sources, secondary sources, and you form part of your own learning. You get to create a narrative based on, the piece of evidence that you see. We also try to, focus on your critical reasoning skills. And this is because you work with different forms of sources, and you get to reason with this. You get to create a whole narrative. You get to create perspectives from, these different sources. We also focus on your research skills and your analytical skills. And this is done mostly through the tasks, or some of the tasks that we give you. You will see that you can go out, out to the world, research, just look out and, get more information about a particular topic. We also focus on the formulation of a clear, coherent argument. And this is done mostly through your written tasks. And you can do this in any class that you're in, or throughout your family, the different debates or topics of discussions that you can have with people around you, or the tasks that you're given, essentially helping you to learn how to structure your ideas and to learn how to, articulate yourself in a very clear and logical way. We also focus on your ability to apply knowledge to your lived experiences. I think history can never be treated as a subject that, isolates your present life. You look through history and you understand things that you're faced with. You understand the structures that we are living in, right? So history helps you in that regard. Okay. So in terms of the career paths you can follow through your study of history, I honestly feel like history is not a limiting subject. As I mentioned, that you learn very, very critical skills that you can apply anywhere. You can follow career paths that are more inclined to history, like being a historian. But I think, when you are equipped with, the ability to research, with the ability to write and argue in a very logical and coherent way, it applies to any field you can think of. So you should consider history if you are intrigued and curious about the past. So if you're someone who wants to know more, who wants to look to different sources of information and expand the depths of their knowledge, I honestly will encourage you to consider history, because it allows you to do that. And also, if you're an avid reader, and we often, are faced with, or throughout the history curriculum, you're faced with large pieces of evidence, and you get to read and reason. And I think when you're an avid reader, your vocabulary builds, and you're able to read a source and understand it much more better. You should also consider history if you are interested in understanding and participating in current affairs. There's so many debates and so many events that are happening right now that have some historical basis. And, when you study history and you're interested in actually, understanding things that are happening right now, you are able to participate and partake in these, current affairs and debates and, topics of conversation. Also, if you're interested in the progression of societies and human life, and this is because our study of history starts from, periods like the 1300s, and we look at periods like the 1700s, we look at the 1900s, and, we also look at the 20th, the current age that we are in. So essentially, you look at, the progression of life, and you get to see how everything is a build-up. Okay, I am now going to move on to life orientation, which is also a favorite subject of mine. I really do feel like life orientation is, that sister that you need, or that brother that you need, or, that internet for advice that you need, or whatever it is that you need. But by definition, life orientation is the study of yourself, right? But you don't study yourself in exclusion of, others in the society that you live in. So we look through yourself and your relation to other people and to the society that you live in. And we focus on, skills and knowledge and values about yourself, about the environment that we live in, learning how to take care of it, learning how to be, environmentally active. We also look at responsible citizenship. So what are the kind of things that you can do as a citizen of South Africa or a citizen of the world? And then we look at a healthy and productive life. So you will see that we have a lot of physical education tasks, which do encourage you to, stand up and exercise and get your body moving. We also look at social engagement, recreation, physical activity, and also, I think, more personally, careers and career choices. And I think you get to ask yourself, why is this particular career good for me? Or why is this one not good for me? So it kind of does act like, therapy in a way. So some of the learning areas that you can include, and these are constant throughout grade 10 to 12, the first one being development of self in society. And then we have social and environmental responsibility. We have democracy and human rights. We have career and career choices. We have study skills and physical education. Please also note, as Suzanne mentioned, that life orientation is a compulsory subject. Okay. Some important information about life orientation. We have our physical education component, which does comprise part of your every term work. So you will be expected to complete a physical education task every term. And this is so that you can, develop your physical well-being. And, you learn about movement, the different movement exercises, and the different safety measures that you need to take, or the safety issues that you need to be aware of. Okay, and then we have also our community service, which is not a compulsory part of life orientation, but I think just to, focus on building a well-rounded and holistic person, it is very wise that you engage in this community service. We usually put it out for grade 11. This is because this is the year you're applying for university, and you're pre-matric, and the next year you'll be looking for jobs, and just giving your prospective employees or prospective universities, that certificate saying, I have completed some community service and this is the kind of person I am. It just kind of helps you, and it shows, the people you're presenting yourself to, that you are a very, very well-rounded human being. Thank you so much. And now I will hand over to Ruhan, and he will tell us more about geography.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Zinhle, for introducing us to life orientation and the beauty and significance of history as a subject. So I am Rohan, and I am the subject specialist for geography. And geography is a subject that I am very passionate about. And since it allows us to interpret and examine and experience physical and human geography combined. And here we see that where physical geography focuses on the processes that shape the Earth's surface, human geography deals with humans and their relationships with communities, environments, and economies around the world. So as a result, geography seeks to understand the interrelationship between both physical and human geography, and how we as humans interact constantly with a changing environment, and how the environment as natural forces influence us as a result. So a good example in assessing how we as humans have been impacted by global or geography as a whole is specifically focusing on how global warming has had an impact, because here we can see we as humans have consistently contributed to contributing to the process of global warming, and how that has had an impact on the environment, and in return, how that has an impact on us. Hence, we learn to develop an appreciation for geography and the planet that we live on and its environments. So geography is a subject that develops critical thinking skills and the ability to apply what we learn in the subject into reality. From grade 10 to 12, learners will discuss topics such as climatology, geomorphology, population studies, settlements, economic geography, and so on. And since geographers have become increasingly recognized as as experts in the field of the environment and of everything that's surrounding us, we can see that it has specifically, it links well with other degrees and other courses such as the scientific, commercial, and humanities degrees and at university. So geography enables students to think critically, develop problem-solving skills, and to develop insights. Hence, it also links well with learners who performs well with maths and maths lit. Okay, so however, geography might also require a student to seek help for a tutor to grasp more complex topics such as map work or other mathematical aspects. And geography also requires students to make arguments based off of factual knowledge and insight. So what that means is learners will have to work with different sources and resources, and be able to make use of the facts thereof, to use them to make a factual answer and give insight to why they are reasoning that way. So, nevertheless, geography does overlap with the sciences and the humanities, and it opens doors for many learners and their career choices. By studying geography, learners can choose to follow a career path in either geographical information systems, geology, engineering, teaching, tourism, anthropology, archaeology, just to name a few. There are a whole array of other careers that learners could choose from by deciding on taking geography. So geography is a unique subject, which I really and truly hope that you do decide on choosing for the rest of your high school career. So I am also going to be moving on to the tips for success. So in order to be successful in your FET phase of high school from grade 10 to 12, it is important for you as a learner to make sure that every lesson counts, that every moment that you make use of during these 3 years, you ensure that it works perfectly and that you make it count. On top of that, it's important to always attend and be available on your online classes, especially on the OLP. The OLP is a brilliant resource for learners to make use of. It gives breakdowns of every week's content, every week's assignments and tasks and activities that need to be completed. It is also an area that can help you to set up a timetable to study and practice, which is always important. And on top of that, it's always important for learners to keep notes and handouts all the time. So another one is the OLP gives you access to past papers. Like I like to always tell my students, don't make use of past papers to study, but rather make use of past papers to test yourself, to make sure that what you've been doing throughout the year, that you are able to understand the content that you've grasped. So what you can also see is that you, in order to succeed, you need to ask questions when you are unsure, and to know that hard work definitely pays off, and that every day you need to practice, and consistency is always key. So you need to have relevant discussions with your teachers, you need to have relevant discussions with other learners, and you need to have relevant discussions with those around you. Okay, so thank you for attending this part. I'm going to be handing over to Suzanne.
Thank you for that, Ruan. And Zinhle, I am very certain that our parents, even learners, have been able to get a better insight into these. We have 2 more webinars coming up in the series of webinars regarding subject choices. These are the 16th of August on arts, visual arts and dramatic arts, and then on the 18th of August, we talk about the service subjects. I actually saw a question coming through regarding consumer studies and hospitality studies. This will be a very big session where we'll also talk about tourism, CAT, and IT. As always, you are more than welcome to contact us telephonically on our 087 number, or send us an email to info@impact. You're also welcome to join our closed Facebook groups. Join any of the FET Face has a number of them. You're welcome to join any of them. Have an eye out on updates on our website, as well as webinars such as these throughout the year.